Tonight, Sky News will reveal the circumstances that led to the arrest of journalist Cheng Lei. Her interview with Annelise Nielsen will air on the Bolt Report at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Annelise is with me now, I'm very pleased to say. And Annelise, at a time when we've got so much difficult news to report for our viewers, this is a beautiful outcome that Cheng Lei is back there with her children, 14 and 12, in Melbourne, and she seems like she's doing pretty well.
She's doing phenomenally well, considering everything she's been through in the last 3 years, that she's waited so long to see sunlight. She just sent me a photo hugging a tree. She's so happy to see nature again. And you're right, it is a completely bright spot in what's been a very bleak time in the news. And I think it's just one of the few things of what we're seeing at the moment where things aren't escalating, that things are improving after a bit of diplomacy. But that doesn't mean that she hasn't been through the absolute ringer. We are learning more about the circumstances of her detention, and it was awful by any objective measure. She's really been at pains to say that it could have been a lot worse, and she keeps talking about how other people have had it worse than her, that she even received a bit of better treatment compared to other prisoners being an Australian in that condition. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't completely harrowing. I'll let her tell the story in her own words in this interview, but one of the things I found just fascinating was we didn't know about how she was arrested. Basically, she kind of disappeared, and it was her partner Nick realised, because she was supposed to call him, meet up with him for his birthday, and she ghosted him. So he went over to her apartment and found that her computers and her passports were gone, and then the process went through of waiting for the consular notification, going through that process, finding out that yes, she had been detained. At the beginning we were all hoping a few weeks, then potentially a few months to get this sorted out, and then it became pretty evident that nothing was going to move without some pressure, especially from her supporters at home. But here's her, we haven't played this bit yet, and it's her talking about the actual moment she was arrested.
They had people from my work, someone very senior, call me and say, "You're wanted here for a very important meeting about your new ambassador series."
Wow.
Yeah. So I went in thinking about work. Yeah. And I get to this big meeting room, and about 20 people there. Yeah. And then someone stands up, shows his badge and says, "You're wanted."
I think that's just been one of the really harrowing things of all this, is just how quickly the rug can be pulled from underneath you. She was a very reputable anchor. She worked for CNBC before CGTN. She's interviewed the likes of Bill Gates, used to cover Davos, and she go from this really highly respected position to all of a sudden a jail cell with no guarantee you're getting out in this decade. It was just awful. And we've got a happy ending here, which is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And did she reflect on the fact that, because we got the human story and that wonderful reunion with her mum and her kids on the one hand, and then, but she's also been a pawn in a diplomatic game, almost a diplomatic hostage. Was she aware of the gravity of how this has all been seen?
This is one of the interesting things that I think is still being processed, because, I mean, remember, the only access she had to the outside world in this process was the half-hour, 1-monthly consular visits. And in that time, the consular officials are reading out messages from her kids talking about progress in her case, and and it's all supervised, and so it's hard to get a proper message across, even in that context. The only other glimpses she had was they would play the CGTN, the domestic 7 o'clock news bulletin, and so that's highly sensitized information that you're getting from basically their propaganda machine about what's been happening. And then the other little bits was little treats about being able to watch things like the Olympics. And so she is still finding out a lot of this. And this is where I've tried to be a bit sensitive with this interview, because we've done it. By the time we sat down, she was saying, I was in a prison. She was at least in the halfway house between prison. By the time we sat down, it was a week later. And so to go from that to getting all this information at you and processing all of it, I think it's going to take months, years, because she's been in this situation where she was told she did something wrong, she was guilty, and she was in that environment designed for guilty people. How do you kind of unravel that when you I think she's really internalized it in a lot of ways. And so I hope that she gives herself a bit of grace in all this.
Yeah, we hope so. And then you've got the other issues of having missed a couple of years of formative years of her daughter's life, starting high school, and those very personal things that people and human beings value so much. And so she's got to try and grapple with that as well. So a really very much a healing process for her ahead, Annelise.
Absolutely. I think the kids, from what I hear, never met them, but I hear that they are just completely thrilled to have their mum back. She did the school run last week and got to meet all the teachers that were looking after the kids while she was away. And I think they became a huge support network for these kids, because that was really just at the heart of all this for so long. We just wanted her back, and it really just wasn't good enough that she wasn't given access to them, that they had to wait so long, and they only found out that their mum was coming back the same day, and that was very protective of them, because no one wanted to get their hopes up. But yeah, she said, I left 2 kids and I came back to a couple of teenagers, and it's a hugely formative time. And I said to her, oh, like, good luck, now you have teenagers to deal with. And she said, oh, that's the best problem I could have ever hoped for. So she's just so grateful. Yeah. She's so optimistic despite everything she's been through. And I just think she's just such a hugely impressive woman. And I'm glad she's back in Australia. We got her back. So I hope we get to see a lot more of her.
Yeah, you did. And for our viewers who aren't aware, you did a great effort over a long period of time trying to make representations. Good on you for the effort that you made, Annelise, and congrats on the interview.
Thank you so much.